Yo Broseph, Chuck here, back with another unlisted video. So this video is just for you, BBMC staff, and anybody else you want to forward the video to, maybe even the engineers back in Seoul, South Korea. So I'm done testing with the PowerCell 8, and I've come up with a selfish wish list of improvements that I would like to see on the second gen PowerCell 8. And I say that because it's about a year old now, and Blackview and Thinkware have announced they're coming out with their all-new battery packs with an identical 7,500 milliamp capacity. So the PowerCell 8 is no longer going to be the king of the hill on capacity, and it might need some improvements to keep its market share. So in this video I'm just going to go over a bunch of quick little things that I see, and then I'm going to make a separate video just on the hardwire cable, because I think that one's pretty important just by itself. So the first thing I want to talk about is this cigarette lighter adapter charging cable. There's two things that I think how this could be improved. Number one, the cabling is too thin in my opinion. This is a 16 gauge wire, and during my testing I found it was getting too hot for my liking under the full 5 amp charge load. And I've got a full post on that on my Dashcam Talk forum post, but basically these wires are getting too hot. So this is 16 gauge, and I would like to see it raised to 12 gauge, and that will keep the temperature down and prevent it from prematurely wearing out, getting too hot, and things like that. And the second thing I would like to see is I would like to see a red power status LED light on the back of this, so that when you plug it in you know you have power. And the reason why I say that is because of all the problems I had with that inverter, with that bad inverter. And if this would have had a red power indicator on the back of it when I plugged it in, it would have made it a lot easier diagnosing what the problem was. And so the reason why I say this could use the power LED is because, you know, everybody's car is different. The cigarette lighter socket may or may not work when the engine is off or engine is on, so that will just make it a little bit easier and more user friendly. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about are these two USB outputs on the input panel of the PowerCell 8. So we've got a USB type A that is for output, and then we've got a micro USB that is an input for technician use only for firmware. And what my simple brain is telling me is, why do we have two separate units? Why do we have two separate USB ports when we could do with just one? And what I mean by that is, if this was a USB type C input, that is capable of input and output, and right now the current maximum power output of USB type C is 100 watts. So this would serve a couple of different purposes. It would make the manufacturing process easier, because instead of having to have two USB ports, we just have one. And then instead of having your customers buy this somewhat expensive $50 inverter charger, they could just use a fast charger that they already have. Now, for example, this is the charger for my laptop. It's an HP, and it's a USB type C, and this one is good for 45 watts. And in the fine print down here, it's a smart charger, and it's capable of doing 5 volt, 9 volt, 12 volt, 15 volt at 3 amps. So what I'm saying is, instead of having your customers buy this device that is only going to be used for one single use, they could charge the PowerCell 8 with a fast charger that they already have for their laptop or their smartphone or whatever, especially since these go up to 100 watts. And keep in mind, this is 75 watts. This is right around 75 watts. So USB Type-C is more than up to the job, more than up to the task of the power delivery needs to charge the PowerCell 8. And of course, since USB Type-C is an input and an output, the technicians can install the firmware through that same USB Type-C input and output. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is this connector, the dash cam output connector. And this is that 4-pin connector that is going to require some type of splicing. Either you get the unspliced cable for your dash cam, or you order the one for the Blackview, ThinkWare, or VO4 or whatever. Now, what I would like to see instead of this type of connector, this is your, I think this is your competitor from the UK. This is from a company called PowerCore, and this is their battery pack, and that's where the power goes in for the 12 volt to charge it. And this is their 4-wire connector that goes to the dash cam. And you can see it's a special type of connector where you just you take the bare wire of your hardwire cable and you plug it in here, and it's got these little snaps, and you just put the wire in there, snap it down, and then you plug it in there. And what this does for you is that means you can now hook up your hardwire kit with no splicing required. And so this is going to do two things. It's going to be easier for your customers to hook up their own hardwire kit without splicing. And a second thing, it's going to make it easier on you as a retailer, because now you're not going to have to stock 4 different cables, one for Blackview, one for ThinkWare, one for VO4, and you're not going to have to spend that 30 minutes or to an hour or however long it takes you to splice those wires together to send them out to your customers. All you got to do is you just give them that connector, and then bing bang boom, they're in business. Okay, so the next thing I would like to talk about is I would like to talk about a third charging profile. So right now on this switch we've got a low charging profile and a high charging profile. I would like to add a third charging profile to enable the use of a small solar panel. And what I mean by this is a small 10-watt solar panel. These things cost 25 bucks. And 10 watts would be perfect, because the average 2-channel dash cam uses 5 watts of power. So during the daytime, for most commuters, when they get to work, it's going to be like 7 a.m. in the morning. They're going to park the car for 10 hours. It's going to be there until 5 p.m. So they're going to need parking mode for 10 hours during the day. Well, if they could get one of these solar panels for $20 and plug it into the PowerCell 8, that means that the dash cam can run off the solar panel the entire time when they're at work during the daytime. And this is going to do two things. It's going to extend the runtime of their dash cam overall, because during the daytime this thing's not even going to be running, and it will only be powering the dash cam during the night when the sun goes down. So I think that would be a huge advantage for the PowerCell 8 compared to other dash cam battery packs, because it's going to increase the overall runtime by a lot, because basically the dash cam battery pack will only be running during nighttime instead of daytime and nighttime. So of course that's going to take an additional plug to plug in the standard SAE connector they use, and then it's probably going to take some adjustments to the battery management system, the battery management system, and some firmware and some software and all that jazz. But as soon as you get that figured out, I think it would be well worth it. All right, the next thing I would like to talk about is there's no way to mount this PowerCell 8. I know you guys include those Velcro adhesive strips to the back of this because most people are just placing this under the driver's seat or passenger seat, or putting it under the rear passenger seat or in the glove box. But what I would like to see is, I come from years of installing car amplifiers, and how car amplifiers work is they have these feet built into the case. You can see there's one there, one there, one there, and one there. And what these do is it allows you to mount the device up vertical, get it vertical up off the floor, because usually the floor is where all the debris and muck and moisture is going to collect. So people like to mount their car amplifiers up off the ground and get them vertical because it helps the cooling. So obviously, I don't think people are gonna want to mount this vertically, but it will just increase the functionality, and it will just help the customers, just give them one more option to mount this rather than just sticking it under a seat or whatever. And I don't think it will cost I don't think it'll cost a lot to the manufacturing process, because you can see it's just an extra piece of metal already built into the chassis right here. Shit. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, this is going to be real selfish, but this is my brand new power bank that I just bought to compare it with this PowerCell 8, and I love this thing. This thing was only $20, and the reason why I like it is because this is a quick charge or a fast charge, and the second reason, it came with a power meter. I don't know if this is going to come out on the screen, but you can see it's got the usual power display of it's saying 100%, and then it also tells you the voltage and the amperage. Now watch what happens when I plug it in to charge it. You can see it's going up to, it's charging at 8.8 volts at 0.5 amps, and this thing only costs $20. So the reason why I say this is selfish, because I would like to see something like this on the PowerCell 8. You know, this thing is not too big. We don't have too much real estate on the side of this thing, so maybe on the front or somewhere where they could figure it out so that when this thing is charging or discharging, you can see the percentage, the voltage, and how much amperage is going in and out for the dash cam or whatnot. Okay, the next three things have to do with the Cellink Neo Plus app. Number one, this was the most frustrating for me, is there's no way to change the Celsius to Fahrenheit. In the app, it'll tell you the power percentage, battery life, and underneath that it will tell you the temperature of the PowerCell 8, and it only gives it to you in Celsius. So I would like to see that some software code and a firmware update written into that so that we can change it to Fahrenheit. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, I know that's selfish. You know, the United States is 1% of the world that uses Fahrenheit, but this PowerCell 8, you know, the United States is probably 99% of your customer base, so it kind of makes sense to have this in Fahrenheit. Okay, the next thing is I would like to see a higher resolution on the display. And what I mean by that, on the current display, when this thing is showing in the app, it'll say 12.6 volts and 0.7 amps. And I would like to add some extra digits in there. I would like to see a second digit, so it'll say 12.60 or 12.61 or whatever. And then I would like to go it from 0.7 amps to milliamps, to a finer resolution, so I can see exactly what the dash cam is doing better, and that will help me see how much power is coming out of this thing. And the last thing is during testing, I hooked up a dash cam. I didn't use the dash cam output. I hooked up a dash cam just to this USB output. This output here that is designed, or that is intended to run a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot router or whatever. And I just did that because I think, you know, somebody might be doing that. And what I found was when I ran the dash cam off just this output, when you get into the app and you look at your battery percentage, it does not report the battery life, so it doesn't work. And the reason why I think that's kind of important, because maybe your customers are going to buy multiples of these, and they're going to buy one just to run a mobile Wi-Fi router hotspot, and then buy another one to run the dash cam. So I'm sure that's probably going to take some software or firmware updates and just get that squared away. Okay, so again, I want to thank you again, Brosa, for sending this thing out. I really liked it, and that's how I would improve this thing. So again, I'm going to make another video just on the hardwire cable. All right, we'll see you. Bye-bye.